Hey there, welcome back to QuickBooks 2016. My name is Charles. We are working in module 4 where we are talking about customers and jobs. This is part 2 of customers and jobs portion where we are talking about how to actually set up new customers and jobs. Let's flip over to QuickBooks and I will show you how to create those new customers and jobs. So let's now go to our customer center. We said our customer center is the same as the customer list. And we had three options of how we can be able to enter into our customer center. One of them was to click on this customer in here within the home screen. The other one was to click from this icon bar, and the last option was to click from the menu and you select customers, you go to customer centers. So those were the ways how we could actually access the customer center, and we spoke about this in part 1 of this video. So now we are in customer center. This is where we are going to go if at all we want to create or want to add a new customer and a job. So this is where we can actually come in and be able to create a new customer. So if you just look at the top here, we are seeing we have new customer and a job. So this is the same icon that we are going to use if at all we are creating either a new customer or a new job. So when you click on this down arrow you're seeing here, it will give you the three options: adding a customer, adding a job, and adding multiple customers and jobs. So we are now creating a new customer. So we click on add a customer. So when we do that, you are seeing there is a screen that pops up. On that screen, you are seeing the first thing that QuickBooks asks you is which of these would you like to create? In other words, which customer do you want to create? It is going to ask you the customer names. So you put the customer name. You can also put in anything. So if I maybe just cancel a little bit, you are seeing here when we click on this down arrow, it asks you which of those three options you want to create, as we're seeing: new customer, add a new job, or multiple jobs. You will notice that we have an option to add multiple jobs and customer. In other words, we can actually add multiple customers and multiple jobs at the same time. So how are we going to be able to use this item here? Let me just click on it and you see what comes up. So you are seeing for that information, here is where you are going to go if at all you have all the customer information ready in, let's say, Excel workbook. You have a worksheet for all the customers that you want to enter in QuickBooks. So you would actually import that information from Excel and you put that information in QuickBooks. So that's the option that we actually go to if at all we want to add many customers at the same time. So you go to add multiple customers and jobs, and that is going to only be at a point when you have already created all the customer information within an Excel workbook. Hope that one is very clear. So that's the difference. That's something I wanted to give as a clarity, because you may be stuck on adding multiple customers and you don't actually know what it means, because you may be having all your customer information, you listed them, but you don't actually know where to go if you want to just pick all the customer information from your workbook, Excel workbook. If at all you had created all the customers, you had their information, you had everything, but you just don't know where to actually go to if at all you want to do that. So this is the point. So that's all that I wanted to clarify for now. So let's go back to our adding new customer, because that's our main emphasis. If at all we learn how to add one customer, adding very many, it will be very easy for us. So that's where now we are. That's the screenshot that you are seeing there. The screen that comes up there, the first thing it asks you is the customer name. In other words, what are you going to term as your customer? We say the customer can be a business, and a customer can also be a person. So me, I'm going to enter as a person, not as a company or as a business. So I'm going to enter someone called, let me just say George Okello. Remember, our customers are arranged in an alphabetical order, starting by their first name. So we are going to say George Okello. George Okello. In other words, it's George, comma, in other words, it's first name, comma, second name. So that's our customer that we are going to be using for now. Now remember that our list is sorted by last name, as I've told you. You have to be careful with that, because if you had used a different approach of arranging these customers, then you could go by your way. But me, I've said, or I said that the one that is recommended, or what I recommend, is starting by the last name, comma, first name. So make sure that you actually type the right thing in here in regards to what you selected as your arrangement for the customer, because we said the main emphasis should be on consistency. So the next thing that you are seeing down here, after putting in the customer's name, the next thing you are seeing is QuickBooks wants to know the opening balance. What is the opening balance for that specific customer? And the reason it is asking you that, because this is going to be at the start date of your company file. So it wants to know how much did George Okello owe the business. And that way, it can have a correct opening balance for George's account. What that means is that you maybe by the time you started putting this information in QuickBooks, you've been dealing with George Okello as your customer. So we need to know at the start of our fiscal year, what is the balance that the company is demanding Okello. So that's the balance that we are going to put on that opening balance. And it is as of the start of the year. But me personally, I don't like to do that at this point, that I put in the opening balance for this customer, because let's assume that maybe customer owed you, let's say, $10,000, and if you put that $10,000 there, the account is going to be correct. The account would be correct, but you would have no way of knowing that $10,000 was really, let's say, from different invoices. If let's say that $10,000 was just an accumulation that we are demanding George Okello, and you find that $10,000 was an accumulation of, let's say, 3 invoices. So if we just put in the $10,000, we are going to be right, but we are going to miss the point whereby we will not know the particulars for those different invoices that George Okello took. In other words, what I prefer, or the correct thing, or what we can actually do in the right way would be this. We are going to leave this empty. We don't put this information here. What we are going to do, we shall create an invoice for this particular customer so that we can be able to track the invoice of that John Okello for the money that we are demanding from him. Because if you just put this, that we are demanding him $10,000, you'll be right. But you will not know that money is coming from which invoices. And that will make your accounts wrong. Though the total figures are going to be correct. So we need to take note of some of those small things, because they are the ones that are going to make a difference. So as I said, I prefer not to put this balance here, because I'm assuming maybe that $10,000 was coming from different invoices. So the best way would be for us to show the invoice that accumulated to that $10,000. So my preference would be we go back and we actually put in those invoices in that customer, so that we can actually see what we are demanding from that customer, or we see what actually owed as at the start date of our company file. So I'm going to leave this blank. Hope you know the reason as why I'm leaving it blank. So let's go ahead. The next thing you want to do is put in some address, the address information for that. This is the address information for that specific customer, George Okello. So the first thing it wants, or QuickBooks wants us to know, is the company name. In other words, the company name for George Okello. Because even if you are dealing with a business, but there is that person of contact whereby it may be the procurement officer you are dealing with, but that procurement officer has a company, is working under a certain company. So you may be dealing with a person, but actually that person is a representative of the company. So that's why here it is asking for the company name. If this George Okello was a sole proprietor, we could just put in the name George Okello, because it would be. But if the person has the business name, you make sure you actually put that information right there. So, but just know all this information is just for informational purposes. In other words, to just give you more details about the customer, or about the business that you want to transact with. So the first thing it wants to know is what we call the company name. So as I said, if George doesn't have a company, you don't want to actually put anything in here. But for study purposes, I'm going to make sure that at least I put in something here. So I'm going to just say, let me just say ABC Limited. ABC Limited. And then now you are seeing the second thing that it says, it wants to know the full names of the customer. The full names, we are saying it is Mr. George Okello. The last name is Okello. Then the job title, you can also give this person a job title. Let's say he's a procurement officer. But the reason as why we are putting in this information is just for the list, to help us show what we can know about George Okello. But it is just information for the customer list. Because now someone is going to be wondering, here we already have George Okello up here. Someone is going to be wondering, why are we repeating the same thing and we put this information right here? So this is just informational. It's just to put something. We just don't want to have just a single name, George Okello, and that's it. But we want to make sure that George Okello is a representative of ABC Limited, but we want to just put in something about the ABC Limited. So this is just information here that we just need for our list. Because now, if I told you put in this information in the right way, you fill in everything. QuickBooks has the ability to do what we call mail merge. It does what we call mail merge with the information within QuickBooks. So if you happen to put in some information here, if you are running some reports, you may see that some of the information they are going to be picked up from this point. So if you have information in these fields, then QuickBooks will actually pull out the customer's first name, maybe the customer's first name, last name, and all that information as you actually put in. But if you don't have any information here, it's not going to be able to pull that information, because mail merging is that it picks out the information that is related to that specific customer, and maybe if you want to email that customer, you can actually find that the email is already within the system. You have already put that information in. So that's why we are basically putting in this information. It is just for information purposes, and it helps QuickBooks to pick out the information specifically for that specific customer, especially when we are running some reports. It pulls out that information. So we are seeing that some of these information that you are seeing here, they have a drop-down list. This drop-down, you can select everything. You can actually try to put the customer's LinkedIn account, or the company's LinkedIn page, the company's Twitter account, the company's Facebook account, all this information. You can go ahead and put in for example, if you want maybe to represent some of this field, and you say, I want this field to be called alter phone or alter mobile. In other words, alternative phone. You may find that you have put in the phone number for Okello, but you are trying to also add in an alternative number for that person. Maybe the alternative number may be the company phone, the landline, the office landline. And you are saying that if I call this person on their mobile phone and they don't pick up, I can actually ring their work numbers, so that the office number, so that you can actually reach to that particular person. So you can actually keep on changing this list from here, from this drop down thing. You keep changing any information as you actually want to. But if this arrangement is okay for you, you can actually just fill in some little information that you can put in. Let me just type in these numbers just for us to have something here. All these are numbers, so I'm just typing numbers. Don't say these numbers actually existing. I'm just typing numbers randomly. So we can put the email address. We can say George, can say Okello George at gmail.com. You can actually put in his company, let's say Okello company email, Okello George. This information is not just a waste of time, but it's something that we actually need to have. abc.co.ug. Can also put in their website, www.abclimited.com. If you want to change this to something else that you may need to add, you can actually put that information right there. So that's we've so far filled in the blocks that we wanted to fill. But now there is something I want you to notice from this same screen that we have here. Down here we have what we call the address details. You will notice there is something called address details. When you invoice your customer, it's going to pull this block that you are seeing here. It will pull this information that you are seeing down here, and it's going to reflect on your customer invoice. That's something that we call the mail merging, where you start picking the information that is related to a particular customer. If let's say you run an invoice for that customer, this information will be picked up from here. And that's the reason as why we are actually putting in some of these information. So that's what you are seeing down here, that if you want to email this customer, maybe you are sending an invoice, you are sending a bill to this customer, it will pull this information that is down here. There is a little pencil here that where you can click and edit this information as you want it to look like, because this is just like a simple preview of how this information is going to be. If at all you had made a mistake, you can actually just click here and be able to edit some of that information that you are seeing right here. So if at all you want to, because this information you are seeing here, ABC Limited, George Okello, this information is not enough. You can actually come here and try to edit. You can put in the phone number, maybe you can just put the phone number as you are seeing it here, 21545664164. This information, I'm just picking it from this point. You can actually come and add the city, let's say Kampala. Let's say you add a state, Uganda. Region, let's say East Africa. So you can click OK. Okay, now we are seeing the information has been added on top of what we had there. So we can copy this same information and we put it here where it says ship to, if at all that's what we want to actually do. So we've added so many things here. You can actually come and add a street, whatever information that you want actually to add from this point. So that's the kind of information that I just wanted to show you how you can be able to. So this information will actually reflect on your invoice. So that's how we add some of that information that you are actually seeing there. So this side where you're seeing ship to, it is in any case, if let's say you have a situation where you have a customer and that customer asks you to ship their items to their location, because a customer may tell you that I want you to bring the goods to my site. If let's say it is a company that has maybe 2 buildings, one building is within the city and another building is far away from the city, they may tell you that you are taking these items to the branch or to our office that is out of the city. But what we want you to do, you send the invoice to our head office at the center. In other words, you are shipping the goods to their branch, but they want you to send an invoice or to ship the invoice. You ship the goods to the branch, but you send the invoice to the head office. What that means is that you are going to be having different locations. So if it is in that kind of situation, then you have also to actually set up the ship to information over here. In other words, you may find that we are shipping this information to, let's say Masaka. Let's say Masaka, the address and the city is the same, Masaka. That's where we are taking the goods. But the invoice is supposed to be at their head office. This is the same country. And the other situation, it may be if it is a multinational company, they have their head office or the group head office somewhere. Let's say they have their group head office in South Africa, and they want you to ship the items to their branch in Uganda. So what that means, it means you are going to ship the goods to Uganda, but you will send the invoice to South Africa, their head office. So that's the kind of situation I'm trying to analyze right here. This is the same thing, East Africa. We can now come and click OK, and now we are seeing the information has been added there. You can actually come here and edit if at all you want to edit. So that's the kind of information that we are seeing right there. So you can add something. The space is always there for you to add whatever information that you may want. You may say it is also called ABC Limited. ABC Limited, but this one is now in our other branch. So that's why you are seeing that ship to information. So you take note of that. But at the end of the day, if let's say your customer is at, let's say, Kampala, Uganda, and they tell you want everything, want the goods plus the invoice being sent to Kampala, then it means this point here, you will leave it blank. That's the implication. You leave it when it is blank. So even if these guys are going to be having different locations, you keep add. This is where you come and add a new location, because this is ship to 1. Then you can also have ship to 2, ship to 3, depending on the information they have given to you. But if you are taking the invoice and you are taking the goods at the same location, then you don't need to fill this part here. So that's basically what I wanted to highlight. So let's head over to the next tab. The next tab within the same screen, the next tab here, we are seeing we have payment settings. If you click on that tab, it brings out the kind of information QuickBooks wants us to fill for that specific customer. So that new tab of payment settings in that same customer file, the first thing it asks you is, do you have account numbers for your customers? If you have account numbers, you put them here. And if you don't, you just leave it empty. But if you do, you can actually plug that account number here. You can also set up payment terms as the next item. In other words, when you invoice a customer, you can say that maybe their invoices are going to be due in 30 days. They are going to be due in 60 days. So you can actually see this information from this down arrow here you are seeing. So that is now the next thing QuickBooks is asking is, do they have a preferred delivery method? Meaning, do they like their invoices to be mailed? This is where we pick are they going to be emailed? Are they going to be mailed or none? So that's what we are going to be seeing. If they want their invoices to be sent on their email addresses, you do that. And you may find some of them, they don't want to receive those invoices on their email addresses. And maybe they prefer to deliver them. So if there is that, you actually select. Then the other thing is, if those customers are going to be having a preferred payment mode, in other words, method of paying you. These are all the methods that we are seeing. But these methods, they are there because we created them. So what that means is, it means you can actually come and add your preferred mode. If what you prefer is not actually within what we are seeing here, you can come here and add it yourself. So before we go any further, let's fill in some information. For these account numbers, let me just leave it empty for now. But for payment terms, I'm going to choose. So if you're not sure about some of these things, you don't actually select them. So if you're not sure, you make sure you don't actually select anything here. But me, I'm going to take that one that says 30 days, net 30 days. What that means is that these invoices, they are going to be due in 30 days. But also we are seeing there are certain things that we are seeing actually here. There are certain things that we are seeing actually here. If let's say there is this, what we are saying, 1%, 10, net 30. What that means is that if let's say if your customers, they pay in 10 days, they can take a discount of 1% off the price on the invoice. In other words, when they give you a 1% discount because you've paid in 10 days, because the due date was supposed to be 30 days, but for you, you came and paid within the first 10 days. It means you qualified for a 1% discount. So what that typically means is that a business will actually take that 1% off the physical items. That 1% is going to be from the invoice price. In other words, the physical item, their value. But it will not include any shipping charges. It will not include any shipping or other charges, because there may be other charges other than shipping. So things like those charges, they are not going to be included. In other words, that 1% is not going to be, is just going to be 1% of the value of the goods. So it's going to be up to you which one you actually prefer to use. But as I said, I'm going to be picking this net 30. So that's the net 30 that I prefer to use. But you can actually select any of those as I have explained to you. So for the preferred delivery method, I'm just going to leave it at email. Then for this one, I'm just going to maintain cash. Maybe we are paying cash, or we are paying by check. We are paying by bank. So we'll leave it at check. So I'm going to just set that as that. But as I said, if it's not there, you make sure you add it there. So someone will be wondering, how am I going to be able to add that? Let me just click. When I click new, it takes me to that payment mode. I can create it myself, and I say I'm going to use credit cards. They are credit card. Let me just assume I'm going to pay by PayPal. Then I click OK. When I click OK, I'll find that PayPal has been added, and you are seeing it is there. So it doesn't take long for you to actually add what you want. But I'm going to just maintain the check, that we are paying by check. But if you prefer, if you have a preferred mode, is the one that you are going to actually put right there. But now, maybe to put some clarity on this, if you select that I'm going to be paying by PayPal here on that particular customer, it doesn't mean that this specific customer, George or Kello, is a must, is supposed to be paying by PayPal. No. But that is just the preferred mode for the customer. But it doesn't mean that when that customer brings in cash, you refuse it. So that's the implication there. You just know that the information, as maybe for information purposes, this customer prefer to pay with PayPal. And down here, you are seeing there is what we call the credit card information. But what you have to know is that you don't need to fill in this information here. As a matter of fact, I would not do anything. In other words, if you have a customer that asks you to keep their credit card information or their credit card information on file, and the reason as why they are giving you that credit card information is because they want you to be charging their cards every time maybe every time you invoice them, then you can actually keep that information somewhere, but not within here. So I'm making it as a point. In other words, make sure you don't save the customer's card information here, because if there is anything that is going to happen on the customer's account, is going to be liable on you because it's you who kept the information in QuickBooks. You can just keep that information somewhere and you bill the customer as you agreed. Because the customer can tell you, instead of invoicing me, you just have this credit card. Every time you send an invoice, you make sure you charge your money from that. So what this means is that you don't need to actually put in this information for that customer because it is very sensitive. Anything can actually happen on that customer's money. And if that happens, it will be your responsibility. So the other thing that we are seeing up here, we have what we call the credit limit. That's the next thing that we are seeing, the credit limit. You can actually set a credit limit for your customer. If your customer exceeds the credit limit, QuickBooks will have a message that pops up to just let you know that that customer is actually exceeding their credit limit. But that doesn't stop you from making an invoice for that customer. But it just gives you a notification that customer so and so has actually exceeded the set credit limit. So you can actually come and set it here. The other thing we are seeing here is price levels. We have also got price levels. If you decided, let's say for example, that all your commercial customers, if you decide, because these are some of the customers that we have commercial, industrial, residential, because we are working in a file that belongs to a construction company. So if you decide that your commercial customers should get, let's say, a 10% discount, then you can go ahead and set that price level. So if let's say your commercial customers are going to get a 10% discount, then someone is going to be wondering, how would that going actually to work? So what we do, the way it would work is you would actually click on this new here. You are seeing this new, and you would give it a name, and then you would say that this price level will decrease the items on the invoice by whatever percentage. Maybe we say 5%, 10%, depending on the percentage that you've created. We can just, maybe we can click on that. We come here, we can just give that price level name. We can just call it price one. And it says this price level will decrease items by price. Then we put the percentage. If let's say we want 5%, can just come here and say if it is 5% or 0.5%. So we come and click OK. So we've set that price level. So we can also come here and put maybe a limit. Let's just limit it at $100,000 as the credit limit for this specific customer. So that's what is in the payment settings tab. So we've seen all that information that we wanted to actually put in. So we can now go to the next tab that we are seeing, which says sales tax settings. We click on sales tax settings, and we are seeing the information that we are seeing right there. If you charge sales tax in your business, then each customer can be taxed or is not going to be taxed, because we need to know which kind of customers are going to be taxed and which are not going to be taxed. And this is where we tell QuickBooks they are taxable or they are going to be non-taxable, because we set it up. For every customer, we are going to say this is going to be taxable or this one is going to be non-taxable. And an example of a non-taxable customer would be maybe a non-profit making organization. Maybe they are purchasing from you and you don't want to charge them taxes. So we can set that up if at all we want. So the next thing that you want to tell QuickBooks is if they are subject to sales tax. There are things that we are seeing here. Let's say this person is taxable, and you can select, you can either add new here, but I'm just going to select whichever is there just for simplicity, but you will be able to know what information that you want to put, whether the person is taxable, whether the person is not going to be taxable. So once you have selected whether the person is going to be taxable or non-taxable, you come down here and select the information that is related to that specific customer. So you will also have a place for resale numbers. What that means is that if you have a business that is similar to your business and they come to you to buy some items to put in their maybe in their premises or in their store, they may have applied to the state for resale certificate, meaning they don't actually have to pay sales tax. In other words, when they buy those physical products from you, they don't need to pay sales tax. So if the customer has the sales tax exemption certificate, you would actually choose the tax code non-taxable and then put in the resale number right here. Those resale numbers, they are those companies that are going to be having tax exemption certificates. So there are numbers on those tax exemption certificates that we actually pick and put here. It's an indication that this person was actually exempted. As we've said, the non-for-profit making organizations, some of them, they are going to be exempted. So if they have that tax exempt, the only way you are not going to pay tax is when you have those certificates that are exempting you from paying tax, because there are so many exempt organizations, but they are paying taxes, because there are those that register companies in the name of being tax exempt companies, but when they are actually not. So the only thing that is going to make sure that this person is tax exempt is by having that certificate, the exemption certificate from the revenue authority of that respective country. So the next tab that we have down here, we've seen all this information. I'm not going to put in here because I've said this one, I've selected taxable, so I'm not going to put that resale number. So the next tab that we have here is what we call the additional information. That is the tab, additional information tab. You can have different types of customers. It may be, let's say in this case, because this is a construction company, we have, let's say, commercial. Because in construction, you can either construct for commercial use or for residential use. They may be for other things, but basically for that. So it may be, in other words, we just put in the type of the customer. For this, let's just select, maybe it is commercial. So there are situations that you are going to be in a business and you are employing what we call sales agents or sales representatives. These are people that are going to be bringing clients to the business. So we need to know who brought George Okello in the business, in the company. So if you have those sales reps, you make sure you select them here. You add that salesperson who actually served that customer, who brought that customer. If let's say you are in a banking business, we need to know the loan officer who actually worked on that customer or that client. So you put the name of that person there. We can maybe come here and say the sales rep's name, the sales representative's name is, let's say, Ivan. Let me just say Ivan. and I click OK, if at all I want to do that. So you can actually put that information right here. So that's where we get that information if we want to set, or if you want to show the sales representative that actually worked on that person. So now we have this side, the customs field. On this side, you won't have anything filled. We will not have any fields here. You have to create your own here. Some of the things we are just going to create them by ourselves. And these three you are seeing here, they were already created by this exercise that we are doing, because we are in a sample file that we use. That's what I'm focusing on, to make sure that at least we get the basics. But some of the things we are going to create them by ourselves. And the way they are created is you actually come down here to define fields. You just come down here where it says define fields here. So you click on that define fields and it takes you to this new screen. So you can come and type in the label that you want. So you can type in the label that you want this to be named, and then you can actually check it off so that it can be added. And this checking off should be available for customers, vendors, and employees, so that you don't have to set these 3 times. And once you've set it up, you click OK, and then you will be able to see that on the next line, or on the list. You can actually come and check these on and off depending on what. So you can keep on changing them as you want. So there were 3, but you are seeing I've added discount available. So after setting those up, there is one last tab on our left here, and that is job info. If you are setting up a customer, you don't set up job info. This would be set up on the actual job itself. So you are seeing the information that you are seeing there. The information is just giving you the details, the job description, job type, the job status. So some of these information we may not actually set them right here, because here we are just adding a customer. We can go to where we are creating the job and be able to add that information. And that's going to be pretty much. And we need to tell QuickBooks when we are actually setting up a customer. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK, because we've gone through all the tabs that we wanted to look at. So if I just come and click OK here, you will see that we are going to see that George Okello is now in the list. The list is here and George Okello is already here. But we've just added that as only a customer. We've not added a job, because we know when we are adding a job, there is an option where we are supposed to add a job. So if we are putting in a customer, you don't need to add a job at the same time. What you have to do is just fill in the customer information. Then when you are creating a job, it will just come automatic. So we've created the customer, and we are seeing that George Okello is now in the list. And we can also notice that it is in an alphabetical order, and in the order of first name and comma last name. That's what we wanted to have, because that's the kind of consistency that we wanted to. So having seen how we can be able to add a customer, now I just want us to go ahead and see how we can be able to add a job. And remember that all our files, all our company files, they are not all going to be using what we call the job feature. So what that means is that we are not going to be able to use the job feature, all of us. In other words, not all companies are going to be using the job feature because some of them will actually be having customers alone. But if you actually going to use the job feature, this is how you will actually do it. Make sure that you have actually clicked on your customer. So let's look at that customer that we want to. Let's just look for that same customer that we created, George Okello. Let's look for that same customer. This is the customer. You make sure that you have clicked in that same customer. You make sure that you have clicked in that same customer you want to add a job to. So when you have clicked on that customer, then what you do next, you are just going to come up here at add a new customer or a job, and you go to add a job. You choose add a job. You will notice that it will pull all the information from your customer, and you can edit that information if at all you need to do that. So it has pulled everything for that specific customer. So if you don't first click in that specific customer whom you want to add a job feature to or a job to, you will not be able to have this information pulled out. So what QuickBooks is asking us is, what is the job name? In other words, we need to add a job name, and I'm going to say, let me just say I'm going to use kitchen remodel, because these are the jobs that we have in this kind of in this file, kitchen remodel. You can also look through each of the options that we have and make sure that everything is still the same, like the way we filled it. So I've gone through all the details, and I'm seeing they are still the same. And when you're done, you can actually come here and say, you click OK. And now you can actually, when you click OK, you can now actually see that underneath George Okello, we are seeing we have kitchen remodel. It's indented underneath George Okello, indicating it's a job for that customer. So you can actually add very many customers, very many levels of jobs on that same customer if at all you want. You can actually come here and change the order, because you may be having kitchen remodel, family room, or kitchen, and you want maybe to start with family name. You keep changing for all the jobs for the different customers to start with family name, the next one kitchen, and the third one is kitchen remodel. So you can actually do that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this because we've actually finished what we wanted to cover for now, adding a customer and adding a job. Now that you know how to create a customer and a job at the same time, let's head over to the next video, and that's going to be video number 3 in this module. And I want to talk to you about a new feature in QuickBooks called customer groups. That's what we are going to talk about. So let me see you in the next video.